I got a thing from my mom. Oh my god, it's so much easier to roll! Oh boy, that's danger. Welcome back to Every Disney Movie Ever. My name is Jess and I'm watching Every Disney Movie Ever. This is the REWATCH series, and today I'm going to talk about Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty is a 1959 animated theatrical release, and I've covered everybody except two people. Everyone I've already covered will be listed and linked in the description. The two people I haven't covered before are Roy M. Brewer Jr., who was an editor, and George Bruns, who was the composer. Both are best known for their Disney work, Sleeping Beauty, 101 Dalmatians, etc. Sleeping Beauty is based off a book called The Sleeping Beauty by Charles Perrault, released in 1697, but it has a very similar origin story to that of Cinderella. The first known version really is from the 1330s, 1340s in Pierce Forest, I don't know, which was actually released in 1528 posthumously. It was the first time it was published, I should say, but it was penned in 1330 to 1340. It's about a girl named Zeladine who meets a boy, prince. It's a prince named Troilus. The king, Zeladine's dad, wants Troilus to prove himself and sends him away to prove himself worthy of his daughter. Zeladine falls into an enchanted sleep. Troilus finds her, impregnates her while she's sleeping. She has the baby thinks it's breastfeeding, but sucks out the piece of flex, the sliver of flex that was in her finger, and she awakens, and Troilus comes back and marries her, and in the second half of the story, Zeladine and her child are almost put to death, but are hidden. The next version is actually someone we've already heard of in the Cinderella video. It is Giambattista Basile, the Italian writer who published the Pentamerone, and in that there is a story called Sun, Moon, and Talia, which is Sleeping Beauty, basically. It's very similar to the Pierce Forest one. Also, I would like to note how tired I am that in the last minute of you watching, I said flex instead of flax, and I am so lazy, I'm correcting myself here instead of refilming the Zeladine story. So it's flax, not flex. I'm an idiot. Giambattista Basile's version is called Sun, Moon, and Talia is the princess. Same thing, she falls into an enchanted sleep because she got a sliver of flax in her finger, and everyone thinks she's dead, and the dad thinks she's dead but cannot bury her because he thinks it's too sad, so he sends her to a far cabin to be like in an enchanted, beautiful thing. A king from another kingdom finds her, is overcome by her beauty, does the stuff. I don't know how to say that without it being, he rapes her, basically. And she has twins. The twins, again, just like in the Zeladine version, suck the flax from her finger, thinking they are breastfeeding. She awakens to find her two twins, names them Sun and Moon. The king returns, probably to have another good time, and finds her alive, and is like, oh my gosh, I can't marry you. I am already married. I have a queen in my life. The queen finds out, invites Sun, Moon, and Talia to the kingdom, orders the cook to make the children into a dish so the king will eat them. Cook feels too bad and hides the children. Talia thinks her children have been killed and fed to the king, wants to kill herself. Cook reveals that the children are actually okay. Queen wants them destroyed. King orders the queen to be destroyed and then marries Talia, and they're a happy family after that. Just as it was with Cinderella, the next famous version, and probably the most famous version, next to the Grimm version, which we will discuss, is Charles Perrault's version, again released in 1697, and is known for its fantasy elements and its, better morals, I guess you could say. Shall we compare? 7 good fairies are bestowed godmotherhood to the infant princess. 6 of the fairies give the gifts of beauty, wit, grace, dance, song, and goodness. An old fairy, long neglected, decides to curse the princess into dying on her 16th birthday by pricking her finger on a spindle. The 7th fairy can't break the curse, but she can change the curse to an enchanted sleep instead of dying for 100 years, and must be woken by the kiss of a king's son. The king orders all spindles destroyed, but 16 years later, the princess finds a woman doing her spinning and asks to try, and pricks her finger on the spindle and goes into the enchanted sleep. People try to revive her to no avail, and the king claims proclaims it is fate and locks her away in a room her own. The seventh fairy realizes that the princess will panic if she wakes alone and decides to put the entire castle to sleep. 100 years pass, and on a hunting trip, the prince spies the castle and hears all the tales of previous princes who tried their hand. He decides to give it a go. Because the 100 years have passed, the prince makes it through the thorns with no issue and finds beauty and falls to his knees. He kisses her and she wakes. I never thought I would say this, but a kiss is fine. Compared to impregnating her while she's sleeping? Oh, okay. It's not fine, but it's a lot better if I had to choose. The prince and princess get married and they have 2 children. The prince wed Beauty in secret because his ogre mother would not approve, and when it's time for him to ascend the throne, he brings his family with him. The ogre's mother orders the cook to make the children into a meal. She says she will, but doesn't, and hides the children and substitutes lamb. When the ogre's mother discovers the trick, she orders that they be killed in a tub of vipers, but the king returns just in time and has the ogre's mother killed in the tub of vipers. They live happily ever after at the end. Then, of course, there's the grim version called Little Briar Rose, released in 1812, and it is actually very similar to Charles Perrault's version, except it doesn't include the second half. It ends after the kiss and waking her up. And they were skeptical about putting the kiss in because they thought Charles Perrault's version wasn't true to origin. The film stars Mary Costa, Bill Shirley, Eleanor Audley, Verna Felton, Barbara Luddy, Barbara Jo Allen, Taylor Holmes, and Bill Thompson. Mary Costa plays Princess Aurora, Sleeping Beauty, Briar Rose, whatever the names you prefer, and she is best known for The Great Waltz, The Merry Widow, The Big Caper, and this. Bill Shirley plays Prince Philip, and he's best known for I Dream of Jeannie, Flying Tigers, Oh You Beautiful Doll, and this. Eleanor Audley plays Maleficent, and Verna Felton plays Flora and the Queen, and I covered both of them in the video about Cinderella. Barbara Luddy plays Merryweather, and I covered her in the video about Lady and the Tramp. All links will be in the description. Barbara Jo Allen plays Fauna, and she is best known for Cowboy Canteen, The Opposite Sex, Square Dance Katie, and this. Taylor Holmes plays King Stefan, and he's best known for Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, Quicksand, Fools for Luck, and this. Bill Thompson plays King Hubert, and I covered him in the video about Alice in Wonderland. The link will be in the description. Writing for Sleeping Beauty began in 1951, and by 1953, Wilfred Jackson was set to direct and had dialogue recorded, story reels, etc. He had everything to begin animation, and Walt threw out a lot of it. Rude. And the release date kept getting pushed back and back and back because of production things, which we'll get into. But a lot of things were changed from Perrault's version, and there was also stuff that was supposed to be in Snow White and Cinderella that was put into Sleeping Beauty. For instance, Maleficent capturing Prince Philip was originally meant to be in Snow White. The evil queen was supposed to capture the prince. And in Cinderella, there was supposed to be a dancing in a cloud sequence that is now put in Sleeping Beauty. Did I say Snow White or Cinderella? I hope I said Cinderella. I don't know. They also changed a lot of stuff from Perrault's version. Instead of 100 years, it's actually just the few hours it takes Prince Philip to defeat Maleficent and her goons. Aurora was the name of the daughter in Perrault's version, so one of the twins is a daughter and her name was Aurora. They made it the princess's name. They also stole a little thing from the Grimm version, which was Briar Rose. So in hiding, her name is Briar Rose. Also Sleeping Beauty's got a lot of names going on. Prince Philip, got his name because of the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip. Wilfred Jackson had a heart attack in 1953 and left, so Eric Larson became the supervising director of the film. In 1954, it was scheduled for a 1957 release. A lot of things had to get pushed back. Walt wouldn't have story meetings. He took Eric Larson off as supervising director and put Clyde Geronimi on. He wanted animation to be absolutely spectacular, like nothing anyone had ever seen before, and he didn't care how long that took. John Hench inspired Evan Earl. Evan Earl's the background artist for Sleeping Beauty, and his art was so detailed and inspired by medieval art and John Hench's interpretation of medieval art. God, I can't talk. And Evan Earl did these background art that really clashed with Clyde Geronimi, who became the supervising director for the rest of the time. That once Evan Earl left, Clyde had the backgrounds softened and blurred a little bit so they wouldn't be as detailed. A lot of the animators hated Evan's designs because they were so realistic and detailed. The animation kind of had to match, so they couldn't have more fun with the animation. They had to be painstaking and really accurate and try to make that art look like it belonged in the film with the backgrounds. The score for the film is actually just a variation of the Tchaikovsky ballet, The Sleeping Beauty, that George Bruns rearranged and kind of made his own. Sammy Fain and Jack Lawrence wrote the actual songs. It was filmed on Super Technorama, 70mm, and Mary Costa was casted. She was heard singing and asked to audition, and then when she auditioned, she sang with her southern accent, and they were like, could you try an English one? And the second she sang in an English accent, they wanted her. Eleanor Audley originally said no to being Maleficent because she had tuberculosis, but she rethought it and decided to do Maleficent anyway, which is so special. Helene Stanley did the live-action reference footage once again. She's done it for Cinderella and one other one, and I don't know what the other one is. I'm so sorry, I'm the worst. I don't know. Ed Kemmer did the live-action reference footage for Prince Philip, and Eleanor Audley did the live-action reference footage for Maleficent. The film was released in January of 1959 to mixed, leaning positive reviews. It made $5.3 million off a $6 million budget, which isn't good. Obviously, it was the first annual loss for Disney in over a decade, and there were layoffs in the following year, like major layoffs in the following year in 1960. It also made Walt really question wanting to do animation again, which will be discussed probably in the next rewatch video for 101 Dalmatians. Anyway, the film received mixed reviews. It later became a massive success with re-releases, obviously, and is one of the most successful now. It has a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. The reviews were it's stunning, the animation is ridiculous, it's so beautiful, but it's way too similar to Snow White, they thought. So, that was the main critique. It also was nominated for Best Score, but lost. Okay, so obviously in the thumbnail you saw we own the Blu-ray, which is awesome. We love that. I wanted to talk to you guys about this. When I cover every single bonus feature in the 2 discs or on the Blu-ray or whatever, it takes up so much time and makes these videos so much longer. So I'm thinking maybe I'll just cover the special features that are like important and that I haven't already covered, you know, like the games and activities. That's not super important. It has nothing to do with the movie. You follow? Okay, so for instance, the making of on this was very long and it covered everything I've pretty much already told you, which happens to be the case a lot of the time for the making ofs on these. I've done the research and already knew these things. However, there are deleted scenes that was the most useful bonus features probably from this Blu-ray that I will share with you. The first was the fair, and it's about Aurora disguising herself as her maidservant and attending the fair carnival thing that is happening. At the same time, Maleficent's vulture disguises themselves as like a fortune teller, and it's a very weird scene. The second scene was like a little bit different of a version of Maleficent coming to cast the gift curse thing. Right at the very beginning, she demands to be announced, and that was pretty much the only difference. The third deleted scene was a scene in a different way that the curse was fulfilled. Aurora, instead of just like waking up in a trance and following the green light to go prick her finger on the spindle, hears her name and wonders where it's coming from and finds a woman spinning on a spinning wheel and asks the woman if she can try, and the woman tries to coax her to try, and then just before the fairies can stop her from trying, she does and pricks her finger. So it was just a little bit alternate version of how she ends up pricking her finger. All of these had voiceovers, like, of people pretending to be each character. They were actors being Aurora and Maleficent and whoever. They were awful, specifically the Maleficent. Whoever they hired as Maleficent was such a different voice, tone, and quality than Eleanor Audley that it just felt so wrong. Because Eleanor Audley is so spectacular, which we know. Anyway, those were the special features. That is everything about the Blu-ray that I think is important. Obviously, Sleeping Beauty lives on in video games, theme parks, board games, merchandise, TV shows, kids' stage musicals, etc. It also has a live-action spin-off? I don't know what you would call that. It's Maleficent, which was released in 2014, and there is a Maleficent 2 coming out in October of this year. In my original video, link in the description, I pretty much discussed the stuff I didn't know about Sleeping Beauty because I had never really seen the movie. I also discussed how if I were her mother, no chance in heck would I let someone else raise her when I love her and want her. That's just garbage. I would protect her, and if the curse happened, the curse happened. It's just no way. No way. And then when she came back, and she like just hugs and then goes dance with the prince, I'd be like, no, let's talk about the last 16 years of your life. I haven't been there. I want to know, you know? I also made a funny comment that I think is still funny that says, would you fight and slay a dragon for a girl you met yesterday? Which is just funny. That's funny. And I still think it's true. I get it. You know, they're 16 and however old Prince Philip is. So you're going to be, you know, a teenager and be like, I met him for 2 hours, I love him, and now I'm so sad because I'll never see him again. But, like, I don't know how old Prince Philip is. Isn't he a lot older than her? Isn't he, like, 20? You're fighting a dragon for a girl you met yesterday? I mean, if you're a good dude, I guess. I don't know, but it's funny. I have a couple new notes. A lot of the stuff I noticed this time was stuff I had noticed last time. The animation is so stunning. I know the medieval backgrounds and intricate backgrounds were really annoying to the animators, but it is so beautiful, such vibrant colors, and the dragon sequence is amazing. Wolfgang Reitherman absolutely outdid himself with that sequence. I know he was also in charge of the mice taking the key up to Cinderella, so he's just so good at like tense climactic moments. Big shout out to Wolfgang Reitherman. I also realized, I actually did the math, a lot of people say that Sleeping Beauty isn't good because she's asleep the whole time. That's actually not true. I paid attention. I have been guilty of claiming that Aurora is asleep the whole time, but it's actually not true. She is awake for 50 minutes of the film, and the film is 75 minutes long. So she is only asleep for, I don't know, let's say she wakes up for the last 7 to 10 minutes. She's only asleep for like 15 minutes of the movie, which is not a lot, actually. For a 75-minute film, she falls asleep at around 50 minutes, wakes up for the last 7-ish. So she's not asleep the majority of the movie, as much as we would like to claim that's the reason that it's maybe not as good or maybe whatever. I do enjoy Sleeping Beauty. I still stand by the fact that I enjoy Sleeping Beauty, but it is not my favorite. I don't know why it's not my favorite. Maybe because I don't super connect to Aurora. You know, Cinderella is like my heart and soul for some reason. It's just the original one that I connect to the most. I do compare Snow White and Sleeping Beauty, I think, because of the sleeping and the kissing awake, and they are very similar, so maybe that's why I don't like Sleeping Beauty as much as I could, I feel like. But I do enjoy Sleeping Beauty. I think it's stunning. I think it's a good movie. I think it's a really solid film. The animation, I think, is the best part of this movie. I think the story is weaker than the animation. But it's still not a horrible story. It's got some really funny jokes in it. It feels very modern instead of, you know, Snow White. It's just Snow White is so, like, traditional and kind of flat. Like, Snow White was very flat. Where Aurora does have a lot more life to her, I think. I just wish there was more. I don't know. Hard to explain. But there's that. There's a lot more characters, maybe, in Sleeping Beauty, and you spend so much time with Cinderella and Cinderella. And in Sleeping Beauty, you spend some time with Aurora, but you're also going to the fairies, and you're also going to the kings, and you're also going to Maleficent. Like, there's a lot of main players in Sleeping Beauty, so you're not spending the majority of the time with Aurora, which maybe that's why. So I don't feel very connected to her because you don't spend a lot of time with her. I don't get to know her very well. I feel like that, maybe. I don't know. I'm just rambling at this point. I enjoyed it. I give it, its animation is so stunning. I'm putting it at 8 fairies out of 10. Its original movie count is... I didn't cry. No parent deaths, but it doesn't matter because we don't count those things in the rewatch series. If you want to keep up with the movie I'm watching when, follow me on Instagram or Twitter. You'll find out what movie I'm watching when I put up. It is every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Until next time, comment, like, subscribe, and I'm sure you are, so you do, and don't be Maleficent about it, really. Barbara Jo Allen.